Headquarters. Hope everyone's having a fantastic week. Today, we're going to talk about the single most expensive mistake a cash physical therapist can make in their entire career as a business owner. And it's not what you think. Ben, want to tell them what it is?
Yeah, so it's attracting the wrong person or hiring the wrong person, and then also if you do end up hiring the right person, is making sure that you're doing a good job retaining them and that you don't lose them. So it's all around hiring and making sure that you bring in the right people and also retain the right people as well.
100%. 100%. We've seen time and time again people who are trapped and stuck in their business because they bring on the wrong person, because maybe they are a great PT, maybe they are a great person, but maybe they have qualities that drag down the rest of the business. And that first hire is especially so incredibly important because that is where the culture is built around. It's built around that first person. And if you're not bringing in A players, other A players aren't going to want to come and work for you. And so having the wrong person in there can not only sap your energy, but it'll also just be a giant anchor on the growth of your practice, because they tend to be entitled. They don't work as hard. They don't receive training very well, and they just want to show up and do the work. They're not there to create the impact that you're driving to create within your vision for your business. And so not bringing in this person is insanely costly. Ben, any nightmare stories coming to mind about bringing in the wrong person that slowed you down? Then we'll tee it up on what the right person looks like and how to retain and train those individuals.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest lessons I've had to learn. I'm still working through over the last 2 years. Once you start getting to a point that you've really scaled and grown, it's going to be the bottleneck is always going to be employees. They can really help you grow substantially more quickly, or they are going to be a huge detriment as
Mm-hmm.
well. So that is the big thing once you start to scaling. It's no longer patient acquisition, patient retention, anything like that. Yes, those things are important, but a PT, a patient plan of care is worth for us about $2,000. A physical therapist for us brings over $300,000, right? So there's just a lever that swings bigger with employees than it does patients now. Once you get to a place that you scaled, so that's something that really is important to
Yep.
realize and recognize. But yeah, the big thing is like the best way to prevent issues, or the biggest way to take care of employment issues is prevent them from occurring in the first place, and having a really solid interview process to make sure that you're weeding out the wrong fits.
Yep.
Some things that you guys might really want to like, well, how do we identify the wrong fits? One thing that we do to really weed out a lot of applicants is have them send in a 3 to 5 minute video
Mm.
explaining, like, addressing 3 questions. Where do they see themselves both personally and professionally in 3 to 5 years? Why they're the right fit for us and why we're the right fit for them. This weeds out of I would say probably about 60% of applicants. Um, and it really just decreases the time that you have to invest into the interview process, because that video and the effort that takes. I've had to make that. I made that video. Used to work part time when I
Yeah.
was starting my practice. I was working part time at another cash based practice, and I was completely transparent with them. Don't worry about that. But that I was doing my own thing, and that was one of the interview process, was sending in a video, and I spent an hour and a half, 2 hours on this damn 5 minute video because I wanted to be perfect, and redid it like over 20 times. And so I know it takes a lot of time, and if somebody isn't going to put that time and effort into it, they're probably not going to be the right fit. So you do want to put some hurdles in their way to make sure and to be able to filter through people with that. So what I'm looking for is a few red flags that can really derail a practice, and by hiring the wrong person is one, if they say like in the next 3 to 5 years that they don't see themselves with you, and maybe they don't flat out say that,
Yeah.
but they more said like, oh, I'd like to be able to move up and work in the Olympics, or I'd love to start my own thing, something that would take them in a different direction where it's not actually working for you. If
Mm.
they flat out say that, like, we want somebody that this is going to be their career. If this isn't
Right.
a stepping stone, um, anything like that, you have to get capacity to move up within the practice as well. So that's a big red flag. Um, if they are also if you look at their resume and they've had like 3 jobs in the last 4 years,
Mm.
you can bet that you're probably going to be the fourth one in 5 years or 6 years as well. So looking for if they're job hunting or job hopping too. One thing too is we make sure that they are comfortable and confident with sales. If they are not confident and they don't have to be comfortable with sales right now because we just don't get training in school. I'd never expect anybody to come in with sales experience, and but they have to be open to learning it and how to do it in an ethical way, and explaining that it'll be done in an ethical way, and positioning as motivational interviewing and whatnot. So if somebody says like they're not comfortable with that, or don't have the confidence to charge 200, they don't feel like they're worth $200, they're going to really struggle with sales from the get-go. So they have to be at least open to learning. If they're not open to learning, it's not gonna work out. So those are the two biggest red flags that we look at when asking. But yeah, have you heard of anything at any of our clients that have been asking?
Yeah, I definitely do, but I want to unpack that just a little bit, because it's like A players attract A players, and you don't, just because someone is an absolute beast, because you know they're going to be successful because they are an A player, that doesn't mean that they're the type of A player that you want. Like, no one in the right mind would hire Ben and I, because we are extremely high performance, independent thinking individuals that doesn't take orders very well. If we think we can come up with a faster solution, like, we're pure entrepreneurs. We have our own vision that we're trying to build that likely goes outside the bounds of another company's vision. So you want to find A players who can be independent, that can think for themselves, that do have confidence, but you need to be able to encapsulate their vision for themselves within your grander vision for the clinic. And if their vision for themselves goes outside of that, that's when it becomes an insanely expensive mistake that you made, because maybe they came in, maybe they are an A player, but now they are either kind of stealing and learning your systems and your operations to eventually compete against you, or you're going to build a schedule around them. You're going to build a business that kind of depends on them. And then they're eventually going to leave. And guess what? The cost of replacing an employee is close to 3 to 4 times the cost of that person's salary. And so replacing a PT that had a full schedule can be insanely expensive, especially right now when it's hard to find PTs who are willing to work and see 25 to 30 patients a week right now. And so the cost of not being able of bringing in the wrong type of person, whether they're an A player or the right kind of A player that fits within our company vision, can be insanely expensive to your business. Now, I don't want this to turn into a hiring training, because it could very easily turn into that. But like, A players attract A players. And if you are not attracting A talent to your team, you better make sure that you yourself are an A player, because A players only want to work with other A players. No one wants to bring down their average supporting someone else. They definitely don't want to work for someone else when they feel like they could do a better job than you. Like, it's really hard. You're in a really difficult position to try to do that. So Ben's process that he laid out about how we go about onboarding, how do we get people to filter out, to raise their hand, and to like identify themselves as like, I'm someone who, when I do something, I do it to the best of my ability and I do it right. Like, that's a world-class hiring experience. If you are someone and you've been having a hard time finding the right person and retaining your people, but your interview process resembles something like what they did in Step Brothers, knowing they go on the like interview run and they do it like side by side together. And it's just like awkwardly sitting in front of each other, getting to know each other for the very first time, asking these standardized, boring questions. Like, if you have like that kind of old school, boring hiring process, like that's not an A player world-class experience for them. That's instantly giving them kind of a taste that this place isn't cutting edge. This isn't a place where I feel like I can maybe like grow to my full potential. What Ben's talking about is world-class, and it lets people know it's like, okay, these people are serious about their business. This is somewhere where I might be able to thrive and learn something. And so if you want to bring in a player talent, you better be one, and your process better reflect that, and better be well thought out as well. Any other thoughts on that, Ben? Oh, you're muted, dude. Your audio cut out. Check. AirPods.
All right, we good now?
Yeah, we're good now.
Okay, yeah, I'm trying to lost my train of thought there. One thing that we just added that brings me, I just thought of how we just added to our job postings that tracked A players, right? We start listing on there that it's not just mentorship. they get to be surrounded by other people that have advanced degrees like their OCS, their SCS, their CSCS. They get to rub shoulders and collaborate with these people. It's not just, other physical therapists. These are people that really take pride and passion in what they do and are A players, and that you get to collaborate with them. So that's something that we just recently added to our job posting and job listings is that piece. So.
Yeah, something we do as well is asking them, like, what's a recent book that you've read, or what's something that you've learned or studied lately, or what would you do if you woke up tomorrow and had $1 million, and just getting a feel for how they conduct themselves outside of business. How are they high performance individual? Are they working on themselves in other areas of their life and business? Because generally speaking, if someone else doesn't do anything else with, what it is that they're doing, it could be an indication that they're not someone who's going to pursue excellence to try to be their best while they're working for you. And so we want to find people who do pursue knowledge and do pursue not perfection, but self-betterment on an ongoing basis. That's why it's one of, Ben, I think this is one of your core values as well, like 1% better every single day. Like everyone on our teams is obsessed with getting better and helping other people's lives. And so another thing that we make a part of our entire onboarding process, because remember, we don't want to just bring in A players. We want to bring in A players who have a vision for their life and for themselves that fits within the company vision. Because at the end of the day, we're all in entrepreneurship so that we can have more time and financial freedom, and that we have full control over the impact we get to have on our own lives and the lives of people around us. And the whole point of building a team is to be able to scale revenue without scaling your workload. And the ultimate dream is to build a team of individuals who build your business for you. That's when you truly have financial freedom. That's when you truly have time freedom. That is what Ben and dozens of our clients have been able to accomplish within our programs. But if you don't weed out the wrong kinds of A players, it is a costly mistake, because they're going to take your patients and run, or they're going to disappear, and it's going to be very, very costly to replace them. So how do we filter out those kind of people? Ben he asks, what is it that you see yourself doing in the future? That's like the front end way to do it. A lot of people are kind of like, they know what clinics are looking for in that kind of answer. And so that some people are kind of sneaky with how they say that. The next point that we ask them is, once they are in the final round, we have them fill out a vision survey. Because at the end of the day, if someone's working for us, we want to make sure that their dreams and all the things that they want to be able to accomplish are achievable through working with us. That's how you get people really, really committed and invested in your community and your culture within your business. And so we ask them, like, where do you see yourself in 10 years? How much money do you want to make? What does your life look like outside of work? And we really, really, really get to know who they are as people, what they would do with things once they achieved certain objectives they have within their life. And then not only does that help us filter out the people who are like, do you see yourself here and committed to the vision that we have and the mission that we have, or are you going somewhere else? And then if they do fit within that vision, now you have every single thing you need to be able to best get to know that person, know what motivates them, know how to communicate with them, how to coach them, how their preference for how to be talked to when you are giving constructive feedback. It's one of the most important things that we do. And it definitely lets A players and the right people who come in feel understood, and that they truly do have a lot of room to grow, and that they're working for an organization that's not just trying to make money off of them, but truly help them flourish both professionally and within their own personal life. So that survey, total game changer.
Yeah, you got to figure out what motivates people. Like, that's the thing that's really been was definitely a learning curve for me, was not realizing, hey, not everybody's motivated the same way I am, and being able to recognize how somebody's motivated, whether that is through financial. Are they motivated by money? Are they motivated by recognition? Yep. Are they motivated by their environment? Like, what are they truly motivated by? Because it's not the same as it is for you. And it's really hard. You got to kind of remove yourself and put yourself in their shoes and see it from a different angle, which isn't always the easiest, because it sometimes won't make sense to you, but that's what really motivates them. So you have to be able to adapt to employees as well.
Right. And be supportive about it. If you can, put them on some sort of like growth track or some sort of mentorship that helps them grow in the areas that they want to grow in. And it gives you a really good picture of like, how do I manage this person so that I can retain them? Because as Ben already mentioned, the one PT is worth about $350,000 per year to Ben's practice. And the cost of replacing that individual is as much as their salary, if not a little bit more, which is insanely costly. It's not even taking into a full account the opportunity cost that is lost while you aren't filling those visits. So important that we retain people. And so one of the things that you mentioned, Ben, that I want us to talk about is like, not everyone comes in great at all the things you need them to be great at. And we don't define an A player by someone who already has all the skills that we need them to have. Obviously they can, but an A player is really an attitude. It's a personality type. It's someone who is coachable, that is aligned with your vision, that likes what it is that you're doing, and is dedicated and committed to seeing that through. That's truly what an A player is. And we've had I got a story about this. One of our clients, he just hired a PT, and they were having a really hard time selling packages. And for a while, he was thinking that he was just going to have to get rid of them. Was not able to fill their schedule because they're not making the sales. They're spending money on the ads to get good opportunities in front of them. They're just missing. And he thought that they just weren't an A player. Then we talked about it, and it's like A players it's not what they already know. It's what they're capable of becoming, essentially. And so we broke down. It's like, all right, you need to be managing this person in a different way than what you currently have been doing. And so there's a second half to the story, but Ben, I want to know, like, what is your managing philosophy? Like, how hands-on are you with your staff? What is the kind of a onboarding and management style that you flow with yours?
Yeah, I think the one thing that, for again, that I think is really important for clinic owners to wrap their heads around is think about how long it took you to become great at sales. Like every person that we work with, like it's just a learning curve, and like there's a lot of people that clinic owners that come to us struggling with sales, and they've been open for over a year. Yeah. And then they bring somebody on and be like, yeah, I expect them to be able to learn sales and pick that up.
They just don't get it.
Yeah, they just don't get it, right? So so kind of humble yourself and realize how long it actually took you. And there is just some things that from a mentality standpoint that just take time. Should you be waiting 6 months for somebody to grasp sales? No. But there is just a mindset piece, like especially if somebody's been working somewhere else that they were worth a copay of $25, and now you're telling them they're worth over 200. There's just a human aspect that you have to mentally, that has to just occur, and it takes a little bit of time. But there are the ways that you can speed it up, right? So we have onboarding training and courses. That's actually what our vast majority of our training is before somebody starts is sales and mindset. And so we are planting that seed before their first day. At least 2 or 3 weeks before they start cultivating that mindset, and also helping them with what sales looks like and how to go about the sales process and whatnot. And we're having them, one of the best ways to watching them come in and observe another physical therapist, be able to do it, and so they can see it in real time, because training only goes so far. Yep. So it's observing other PTs doing the sales process, going through the training. And we just have had enough PTs go through that we know this training works really well, and that if they follow X, Y, and Z for the right person, they will be able to convert and do well, right? So that's kind of our process. We've got extensive onboarding beforehand and mindset stuff. It's not just like, oh, here's the script. There's a lot of, you got to have conviction behind your words that you're saying, and so a lot of it's mindset stuff, and then observing other physical therapists, seeing like, hey, this is how it's done. It's possible. Right. Up until the first day, like, oh, this is all just theory. It sounds just like theory, but you've got to kind of tie it together by observing and seeing another person do it in real time and see how it works. So
100%. And that having that like context of like, hey, not every, like they don't have all the training that you have, the background that you've gone through to get where you are before you brought them on. But I think it's also really important to like understand the level of commitment and the mental pace that other people are on compared to where us, the entrepreneurs, are actually at. Like for us, we might learn things and pick them up much faster because we have a lot more at stake. Okay. Like, yes, we both have like our income and our family is like on the line, but in terms of what you have mentally committed to is climbing an entire mountain. And so you're going to learn those skills a little bit faster because you have a much grander, longer, long-term vision that you've mentally committed to. The people that you hire, they're on a leisurely walk. And so their pace and their mindset around like learning things and how important it is to learn this stuff is fundamentally just completely different. And so not only do they not have the entire like background and the research and the training and the mentorship that you've gone through to get to this point, but they also haven't made this giant lifelong commitment that you've made in your mind. For them, this is just a job that they're hoping takes care of their basic needs and that they get to feel fulfilled every single day. And so, like you said, Ben, it's like it's hard to step into the mind of our staff when we bring them on because we want them to just be great right away. But we do have to understand it's like they're on a very, very, very different journey at a different pace that we have to plan for. Now your onboarding is brilliant. The 90-day ramp up, having them go through sales training, having them do some mindset stuff, doing some role plays. But I want to talk a little bit about how do we actually manage our PTs and even manage ourselves. So if you don't have a team yet, like this still applies to you 100%. So this individual that I was talking about who almost let go of a really good PT who they weren't able to convert. And he was like trying to coach them. They were doing role plays and he was telling them to follow the script. And this person just couldn't get their sales up. And he was close to letting him go. But we analyzed what exactly he was doing with the PT. Like when you sat down and did these role plays, when you put together a training plan of these individuals, like what did that look like? And basically what he was doing is taking them through like the entire like script and picking out like all these different things. Your voice inflections were bad here. You kind of fumbled around with your recommendation here. He didn't handle like this conversation around like insurance and super bills very well. And he had, just like he did when he does an evaluation with a patient, at the end of his training session, he had a laundry list of all of these things that he identified that could be improved upon. Now, on the other end, the receiving end of that, that's not very useful information because when we're coaching our staff, what we've seen is like you come up with this laundry list just like an eval, but you're not prescribing a plan of care where we're doing this, then we're doing this, then we're doing this. You expect them to take action on all those things you just found in a single moment and expect them to have results right away, implementing all those things. But now they're thinking about all this stuff and they're not getting any traction with any of the improvements because they're trying to do too much. There's just too much stuff to remember. And so what we ended up helping him do instead is do a role play. But the moment you find one core thing, one important detail that you could build a training program around, stop. This time, all we're going to be focused on is what you do in the first 10 minutes with the patient. How are you teeing up the evaluation? Okay, and practicing that. So once you identify the one thing that they're weak on, after that meeting, we both agree that this is what we should be working on. And then what they did is they scheduled 2 training sessions specifically around that topic. One where they were doing the actual walkthrough of like, here's how I kind of tee up the whole thing. Here's my body language. Here's what I say. And paying attention to like how we're trying to make this person feel versus like what we're doing. And then they had the other person do it. And then that month, that's the only thing that they focused on. And then they nailed the first 10 minutes. They perfected that first 10 minutes. And then they worked on another role play. What's the next thing we can work on? And so if you work with golfers, for example, if you're a golf coach, you don't tell someone everything that's wrong with their swing. You focus on one thing at a time. You have them hit 500 golf balls, working on that one thing. And then once they have that one piece down, they work on the next part of their swing. That's what we need to do with our sales personnel, our admins, our physical therapists. Focus on one training piece at a time. And once we did this, this client of ours, not only did that PT start making sales, but they're converting like above KPI. So around 80 to 85% of evals are converting. And what they discovered was the script was really the biggest problem because people sell in different ways. This person, the way the script is written, didn't align with who they were as a person. They discovered that, tweaked the verbiage a little bit, and now the person is crushing it. And so when we're leading and managing people, not only do we need to like work with them to identify one thing, then design a training plan around that one thing before working on the next one. We also, as leaders, have to understand, as Ben said, that people think very differently. People are fundamentally very different. And so we have to sometimes adjust our script and sometimes adjust our process so that our team can be successful operating within a framework rather than operating off of a script that you bought from somebody or found online.
Right. 100%. 100%. And I think a lot of it comes down to like expectations that you set with people beforehand too. And so during our onboarding, we set 3 KPIs, 3 key performance indicators, 3 expectations. And this is where it's important. I'm sure there's so many of our listeners that are not tracking KPIs. This is going to come to bite you in the butt when you come to hire people, because you're not going to have any KPIs or expectations to even set with people because you don't have them set yourself. So start tracking your KPIs. So if you guys are listening, it's like, oh, this is hiring, I'm not quite at that point yet. Yes, you are. You're setting the seeds with being able to track KPIs and whatnot. So we set 3 KPIs with them. One of them being, hey, what is expected for conversion rates? Yep. Our conversion rate is 90%. For 10 people that come in, 9 should be continuing on. So 90% plus conversion rate. And they should also be completing 9 visits per plan of care as well. So you also have to give them something to aim for, and helping them know what success actually looks like is a really big key piece to that, because everybody wants to have a target. And if there's no target, they don't know, they don't have any of that feedback as well on just your numbers on what success looks like. So that's something that's really important.
That's a whole nother reason why you'll lose A players right there. Like, one, like you're getting rid of them because you think they're not A players, when the reality is you just suck at training. You're not a good leader. You haven't developed that skill yet. There's no such thing as bad leaders. It's just you don't have the skill set. It's something anybody can learn. But yeah, as to your point, Ben, like you need to have your numbers to give people something to chase for and something to optimize. The people who are the best want to continue to get better. And if you don't have the metrics and the data to show them their shortcomings and show them how they can get better, then they're going to lose interest. They're going to get bored. They're going to get burnt out. They're going to feel like they're no longer growing because they can't visualize their growth over time. And so tracking your metrics, like, man, you and I are the opposite ends of that spectrum. Like you're so meticulous within. I feel like that's just naturally who you are. But for me, like I hate details. I'm not a details person. I'm such a head in the clouds visionary. Like I come up with the ideas, but operating that way, it caused us some pretty major setbacks. We actually lost some really good people that were on our team because we didn't have the kind of growth plan that we could have had if we were tracking data better to give them better counseling and mentorship on how they could keep getting better. And then I learned real quick, tracking your numbers is actually really, really fun when you contrast that with the pain of not doing it. And so it's so important. If you guys aren't tracking your numbers, how the hell are you going to lead your company? How are you going to make the right decisions? There's nothing more painful than being in a meeting with your staff when sales are down and you're asking like, why do we feel like people aren't converting? And everyone says, I don't know. You don't want to be in that position. Have data so data can tell you what to work on every single week, and you'll be shocked at how fast you can grow.
Yeah. I think something we highlighted earlier, I think it's important to dive into further is the growth that somebody can have within the practice. And that is a huge thing that I've learned in the last year. And I always knew it was important, but I didn't realize how important. I'd say it's probably one of the top 3 things that people are looking for when they're applying. Yes, pay is great, but the growth trajectory, and especially for A players, that can a lot of times can trump what they can actually make. They want to be able to feel like they can grow within the company. And so on their first day, we sit down with them and map out what their journeys look like, just like what we do with patients. During our plan of care, we have Mount Dewmore. Step 1 is get out of pain. 2 is address the root issue. 3 is based on performance, right? So we also want to do the same thing with your staff and map out, hey, this is where you're starting as a staff clinician. Next one is taking on more of a lead-based role, clinic director, and then regional director, and then profit sharing or partner, right? So you map this out and kind of what the anticipated timeline looks like, and let them know that can be sped up or can take longer depending on what the person's looking for and what they're needing as well. So really mapping that out is really beneficial, especially if you're hiring A players. And I think in a cash-based practice, that's what we're hiring. That growth trajectory is even more important than just a normal typical PT clinic that's in network and might not be attracting as much A players. So
good. And you can't do that unless you're tracking data. So to recap this, everybody, the most expensive mistake that a cash physical therapist can make is either not hiring anyone at all, because you are missing out on a tremendous shift in your life when you're able to consistently make the kind of money you want to make without it being completely dictated by your time. You're stuck trading time for money as long as you're doing that. But then the next most expensive thing is hiring the wrong person who's going to drag you down and is going to make you feel like you are doing everything right, but you don't know why you're not growing. It's called being trapped in region beta, okay? Because you hired someone who is just good enough, but you didn't realize that if that person up and quit and forced you to hire someone better, your entire life would be so much easier, okay? Region beta. Paradoxically, you'd be better off if your situation got a little bit worse and that person disappeared, so you had to replace them. Okay. The next most expensive thing is having to replace a great person because you weren't able to retain them. And so to go over the things that Ben and I mentioned here in this podcast is, number one, you got to be an A player yourself. A players want to work with A players. Okay. So you better be a high performance person. You better be aware of your shortcomings, and you should be working on them. Okay, if you're in entrepreneurship, hopefully that's something that already comes naturally to you. Next, you need a world-class onboarding experience. It needs to feel something where an A player can thrive. If an A player comes into your business of operation and feels like they could do better than you, why on earth would they keep working for you? Why wouldn't they go and start their own thing? Okay, so you need good systems, you need good onboarding, you need to be able to filter out the B players, the people who aren't really committed to getting better and making other people's lives better. You need to be able to filter out the A players whose vision is too big to fit within your company vision and mission. Okay, those people aren't good. From there, Ben, you want to take the management and retention piece?
Yeah, just making sure that you're mapping out the growth piece and showing them what's possible, and then make sure that you're meeting with people frequently, on a frequently basis, checking in with them. We do monthly one-on-one. And we also have open office hours every single week that no matter what week it is, they have time to come in and speak with the clinic director at that location. And then also they have a formal one-on-one that's scheduled every single month. So it's frequently meeting and checking in with people and having those times scheduled to make sure that you're addressing things before they become problems.
Right. And tracking all of your numbers. Okay. A players are high performance individuals. They want to be able to know that they can optimize and get better as they go. And they also are expecting you to be able to make the right decisions. Okay. An A player is capable of leading themselves. If they choose you to be their boss and their employer and their leader, they're expecting you to have the burden to be able to make the right decision. And you can't make the right decision unless you have data. Once you have that data, you can not only measure their performance and help them optimize it, but you can also give them targets to hit to be able to grow within your business, either to get new positions or increases in pay or bonuses. And then on the other side of that spectrum, if they're underperforming, that doesn't mean they're not an A player. It means that you're not effectively leading them and giving them the resources they need to win. Okay. Most of the time, if someone's not performing, it's not a them thing. It's for sure a you thing. And so we need to make sure that we have good training plans. Anyone who isn't ramped up to KPI, meaning key performance indicator, the baseline metric that everyone needs to be at for the business to thrive. If they aren't there, they have to be on a performance plan. And how a performance plan is created starts with a call, a review of the numbers, maybe a role play or listening to a recording of some kind and picking one thing, one little thing in their golf swing to work on for the next 30 days. Once you know and agree what that one thing is going to be for the next 30 days, pick 1 to 2 30-minute calls scheduled out over the next 4 weeks where you're going to actually train on that specific thing. You're going to do drills. You're going to do role plays. You're going to go. They're going to go. Then at the end of that 30 days, they're going to be much, much better off at that one thing. Then you can work on the other thing and ramp them up to KPI. So they not only become very, very good long-term, but they also have like the context and the understanding of like why you do things a certain way. And they're going to know that you actually care and have more to teach them. That's what's going to keep them around longer. Right. I'll end it with a quote that my coach told, or our coach told Ben and I. It was that your team's loyalty to you is in direct proportion to the amount that they grow while they're within your company. And so if they are no longer growing or they feel like they need to leave to grow, they're for sure going to do that. And so we need to have training plans. We need to have those check-ins. We need to have data. Anything to add to that?
Nope. Perfect.
It's another good episode, guys. If you enjoyed this episode of the Cash Physical Therapy Headquarters podcast, do make sure that you subscribe to our channel or follow us on Instagram and check out our YouTube channel. And if you got value out of this and think someone else might as well, please share it with your friends, colleagues. We don't run ads on any of these. All we do is pour our knowledge, what we're seeing in the marketplace, what we're seeing within our own practices, sharing what's working in cash physical therapy. And the only thing that we ask is that you subscribe and share it with your friends and family if you like it. Have a good day, everybody.